There are thousands of religions throughout the world, in different cultures and different backgrounds, and in each one there are miracles that happen that follow their specific belief systems. Even when it comes to the stories of near-death experiences, there are different near-death experiences that you can find online that correlate to your beliefs to reaffirm what you believe. But what if I told you that all of it was true and there wasn't a one true religion or spiritual practice? Because it's all in the mind. And not just in the mind of the individual, but also in the minds of our ancestors and the mind of it all. Recently, I started to dive into numerology, and numerology has many, many systems within it. It's not just a one size fits all. Different cultures and religions practice different numerical systems. And finding this out made me really do a deep dive on how all of this can work within us, not just with numerology, but with our own spiritual practices and even religion. Why are there so many denominations within Christianity? Why are there so many different spiritual practices, from Ifa to hoodoo to voodoo? This is my series on the science of magic. If you haven't seen my first video, I will leave it up in the iCard so you could check that out first. And that's dealing with the hidden science behind spells and frequencies. But today I want to talk about the psychology and power behind rituals and belief systems. Why does certain belief systems work for certain people? And why are we drawn to certain rituals? So what are rituals? Rituals, usually in religious or spiritual practice, is a ceremony where you follow a certain set of steps with intent in order for the outcome to be correct. And many rituals are passed down within the culture. That is why you can go to church and expect to do the same thing every Sunday. So someone getting up to go to church every single Sunday and following that same routine with intent is a ritual for them, and it's probably been passed down through their bloodline because their parents took them and their parents took their parents. And when it comes to spiritual practices, that is no different. A lot of people harbor on the fact of the importance of doing a ritual, a ceremony for specific things like protection magic and sealing magic right before and after you do a different ritual in the middle. And when I first started my spiritual journey, I stepped away from doing any type of magic because of this reason. I wanted to know the why. What exactly is me doing this specific thing that is going to protect me or seal off the ritual or make this actual thing work? And it wasn't until I started diving more into the psychology behind rituals that I started to understand how it works for individual people. Psychologically, when you do a ritual, which is a repetitive thing that you do with intent, you are signaling to your body that it is safe and that this thing is working for you, and you know it will work for you. So if every single time I say I am protected and I light a specific color candle, and I do that every single time that I do protection work, then that protection work is going to work for me because psychologically I believe that it works for me. And that is also why getting passed down rituals through your bloodline or in your culture is also very powerful, because psychologically, when you see that this specific spell or ritual works for your community, then psychologically you're going to know that it works for you too. It's confirmation bias. When you see other people do it, you believe it more for yourself. Now, stepping outside of psychology, because psychology and science can't explain all magic, and I believe that magic is still magical. So when it comes to the magical side of this, how I like to view it is all is mind. And we also know through science that our ancestors and our parents, they pass things to us. They pass our traumas to us. They pass our thoughts, our fears, our anxiety. And we often try to ask ourselves, why don't I like doing X, Y, and Z, even though I've never done it? Why do I get anxiety from this thing when I've never actually experienced it to be traumatized by it? And oftentimes it comes from our bloodline. The same is true for rituals. That is why many, many people advocate for people starting their spiritual journey, is to figure out what their bloodline did, figure out that magic. If you're African American who ancestors have been here since slavery, then they often push hoodoo to you because more than likely your ancestors practiced hoodoo. So you have that bloodline within you. You have all of that symbolism, the rituals that they use, your ancestors use, ingrained in your subconscious, and you don't even realize it. So when you use these specific rituals in your specific bloodline of spiritual practices, that energy is so strong and potent within you because it's already ingrained in your subconscious. It's already a part of your DNA. So when you practice specific spiritual religions that your ancestors practice, you can tap into that ancestral energy because that is something they practice, and they can give that energy to you to amplify that power. That is why oftentimes there are people who start their spiritual journey following the spiritual path that their ancestors took and practice magic without really having a belief, and it worked for them because they consciously may not believe, but subconsciously they do. On the other hand, there are people who practice certain spiritual religions and rituals that aren't a part of their bloodline, and it may still work for them, and that's because all is mind. At the end of the day, we are all interconnected. So yes, you have a closer connection with your bloodline and your ancestors, and that's why it's very much advocated to stick within your bloodline because it's easier to reach that energy of the people that's already ingrained into your DNA. But if you venture off and practice other religions and other spiritual practices that you know isn't a part of your bloodline, you can still tap into all is mind. You can tap into the universal source of mind and still connect with the symbolism of the ritual work that you choose. Or you can completely scrap all of that and decide that you're going to make up your own ritual. And that is also powerful too, because you're programming your subconscious to create your own rituals for yourself that you believe in, that you consciously know, and now subconsciously program within you. But when you're starting your spiritual journey, that is why many spiritualists, practitioners, witches try to push you to doing research and learning and grabbing books of other witches who have rituals, so that way you can practice with rituals that have already been done, that is already circulating within the community that has worked for others. And that is just one belief of how I view our brains being very interconnected to source, our subconscious mind, and why symbolism is so powerful, why rituals can still work even without belief, because you don't have to consciously believe in something, your subconscious does. Now, moving away from the internal things, even though we're all interconnected and there's no separation, when you think of it in an external format, like why do we use certain herbs for prosperity, like bay leaf? Let's say bay leaf is for prosperity. And maybe you're somebody like I was, where I questioned everything. So I was like, okay, but who made bay leaf the advocate for abundance? Like, why? Why bay leaf? What exactly it is bay leaf? And you can go and do your own research and figure out the why. But I think it's more powerful in knowing that this specific culture of people said that bay leaves represents abundance. So all of these people across the world who practice spirituality and use bay leaves in their ritual for abundance, that is energy that humans are giving to this one herb. They are pouring that energy into that herb. So now this herb has an energetic vibration of representing abundance. So even if you don't have the strong energy or belief system to know what you're doing as a baby witch or a baby practitioner, that energy is still potent enough to carry you through. You know, maybe you'll get a few cents here, a few dollars there, and it'll build up your belief system of realizing like it is powerful, because there is an energetic vibration that all humans put together and focused in on this one bay leaf. Yes, of course, you can still have certain herbs or certain flowers or certain symbols that represent something completely different to you than with everyone else. Like instead of seeing red roses as love, maybe you see sunflowers as love, because you have a specific connection with sunflowers when you grew up seeing them. It always made you feel loved and happy. So you would put sunflowers on your altar to represent love instead of roses. But if you are a new practitioner or doing a ritual where you don't necessarily know what herbs represent certain things to you specifically, it's recommended to pick the herbs that represent something to a vast amount of people, because it has that vibrational energy that people associated with. So you're grabbing that energy from all of the collective of people who believe in that one thing. I don't know if you guys have seen The Sandman, but I already spoke about this in one of my lives, but I think it's very, very eye-opening and important, and I really want to do a whole video decoding this, but I'm gonna save that for another day. But a couple of quotes really stuck out to me in that movie. One was a very random episode that I won't go into detail about, but they were talking about how humans collectively decided to change the world all by believing it first in their head, and they were able to change the world drastically just by thought. The collective mind, when we start all thinking about one thing and pouring our energy in that, that's all of our energy going towards that one thing that amplifies that power even more. We are more powerful working together than working individually, and that is why there is belief systems and different spiritual practices, because it's not necessarily to keep you boxed in, but it's to realize that if we all collectively believe in this one thing and do rituals this certain way, that's all of that energy going towards a greater cause. And another quote from that series is, the only way to kill a god is to stop believing in them. And that's very powerful because it also puts the power back in us, in our subconscious mind. What we believe in as a collective is the truth. We give energy and deities life. We give them energy because we believe in them. We create them real. That is all I have for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I would love to know your thoughts down below on your belief system around spells, rituals, all of that. Let's chat down below, because my way isn't the right way. It's just the way I perceive the world around me and how I perceive magic. For those of you who are new, my name is Elle. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave comments down below, and subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.